Thanks. We're good. Hi everyone. Thank you first of all for being here. I am the first speaker. I am from Drexel University in Philadelphia. I'm currently working for the Central Company. So today I will be talking about what I did on like using Maxine, which is a nanomaterial and 2D nanomaterial for making multifunctional textiles. So first of all, I think because I don't have a clicker here and the clicker broken and there's some animation, so I'll have to say a lot of next slide or the next step during the presentation. I apologize for that. Next slide. So I want first of all to show like the many possibilities right now and many applications textiles already serving right now in the industry. Of course, we're all familiar with the clothing textile we all wear, and they come with different colors, different structures, different materials. We're all familiar with that. That's why we go shopping for clothing. We also have like furnishing textiles, but like less visible. There are like many more technical and industrial textile applications. For example, like we have like sportswear that has like functions as well, like water repellency, waterproofness, odor repellent, all like baking, like a lot of functions already embedded, and they have different structure that and chemistry that give them the properties, right? And we also have the safety applications for such as like very strong ropes used made of braiding process and like the chemical repellents, of the firefighters and like the chemical facility workers they wear. Right. We also have other applications such as like non-woven use for masks. We're all familiar after COVID age, and also we have fiber reinforced composites that are very important for automobile and aerospace. And we even have like medical applications that use textiles. The reason why I want to put this slide is want to show you like the many textiles we already have, and their different structures and chemistry, and the processes there are available. So next slide, please. And that's why in the future, this gives us foundation to incorporate more functionalities into textiles in the future, because we already have such a good foundation of applications of textiles. In the future, we want to incorporate more applications, such as like putting sensors on our everyday textiles. And like, for example, right now, fabrics is already under a lot of rules in order to like make serve as a more solid foundation than the regular soil. And that's why, like, with this foundation and, our textiles at home, we can embed like sensing application, energy storage application, and actuation, like change shape of your chair. Think about that. There are many functions. But in the future, we can also make textiles serve more function than they are serving now, such as neuroprobes. Because most of the neuroprobes right now, they're metal-based probes, and that's pretty rigid. And if I can make textile conductive and make fiber conductive, that can serve a more flexible probe that's more compatible with our biology, such as like more soft grain, right? Next slide, please. So in order to incorporate in order to achieve all these new functionalities, we do need advanced materials, such as, for example, metal-based materials like copper, silver. But these materials have their unique advantages of high conductivity, but they're not stable, meaning that when you wear this textile made this material, they will oxidize over time, first of all, and they will be wearing out over time because the adhesion between this material, like the metals and textiles, such as polyester, is not very strong. And then we also have other materials like carbon-based or graphene-based, but they're not enough electrically conductive. Next. So I want to talk about Maxine today and why Maxine is a very interesting family of material for the development of smart textiles. So first of all, what is Maxine? Maxine stands for two-dimensional transitional metal carbide nitrides and nickel carbides. Next. And they come with many different compositions. Right now, already there are 40 different Maxines available, already being synthesized. And they come with many different elements, and you can see here the different elements that can present in Maxine from a periodic table. And they have like, because of the different compositions, they can have different colors, first of all, and color is very important for textiles, and their applications can use for it in addition to the functions I'm going to talk about later. For example, because Maxine also have different layering, like even with the same elements of titanium and carbon, they can have different colors. And in addition to color, they also have very different electrical conductivity. All the way from, this is old data, all the way right now, 20,000 Siemens per centimeter, which is on the same level of metal, to a very low conductivity. And this is useful for applications such as iron shielding and camouflage, which I will give an example later. Just click all the way. Yeah, thank you. So this is like briefly how vaccines are made. The reason why I want to present this slide is because one advantage is vaccines made by a naturally scalable process or that chemistry-based process, similar to how like lots of materials are made nowadays. So it's from a 3D precursor that's already well studied called MagSafe. And then with like etching of like mixed different acids, we can remove layers from this 3D precursor to make them into this kind of stacked layered morphology. And after, and after that, we can disperse them into a solution. And one advantage of vaccine, key advantage of vaccine over graphene, for example, or carbon or metal-based materials, vaccine is dispersed in water. So you can think of tea. It's basically just like tea, and you can handle it and just use like water, which is the most abundant and environmental friendly solvent, and doesn't require, unlike other materials, doesn't require any stabilizer because it has naturally functional groups already on the surface. So the functional group themselves are already enough to allow them to repel each other and have a very stable dispersion. This is very important because we know textiles are solution processed. All the dyeing will deal with, all the printing we deal with, for the patterns we have on the t-shirt, they are all solution processed. Meaning that when you have a solution, you can choose the rheology and be processed with existing textile processes, and that's very important. You can see we already can already produce a lot. And just click all the way. Oh, good, thank you. Yeah, so I want to introduce like the key properties because smart textile is such a broad field. It all the way from sensing to energy storage to display, there's so many things. But all those different functions require different properties. And I want to show you here are some of the key advantages of vaccine and why they're good for many applications. First of all, it has high electrical conductivity, as I mentioned, and it doesn't require any post-processing. So today, if I have a vaccine with me right now, by dropping onto my shirt, it is, after it dries in 5 minutes, it's instantly conductive. It doesn't require any post-processing like graphene or carbon-based material or like metal. Metal requires annealing, and that will destroy a fabric because that's like over 200 centigrade. Your fabric cannot withstand that high temperature. That's why often you don't see like, there are other methods to achieve that actually. So secondly, I want to point out the vaccine because it's 2D material, it has a large surface, and that makes it very good for energy storage, for making supercapacitors and batteries. Think about wearable energy storage solutions. And there are other properties. And here I want to show that it's for textile, very importantly, vaccines are biocompatible, shown already, especially the most important composition of titanium-3, carbon-2. We have a lot of evidence suggesting that this material is biocompatible. And lastly, if you have the amazing properties, better than graphene, better than metal, if you cannot process it, then it's of no use. But vaccine actually offers even better solution processability. As you can see here, by simply changing the flake size by using either large flakes or small flakes, you can already make the solution from a water-like consistency for spray coating, stuff like that, spray coating, inkjet printing, for example, all the way to like, this is a paste that can be used for printing, like screen printing, 3D printing, stuff like that. So vaccines has a lot of processability advantages as well. Previous. Thank you. Yeah, so I talk about like you can process it with existing processes. All the processes are already existing in textile industry as well. So you can now substitute the ink you're using with vaccine. And there are lots of studies already shown that you can easily substitute what was previously in the industry with vaccine. And you can see here, this vaccine is already quickly catching up to graphene, which is a benchmark material for the 2D materials field. And there are so many applications right now where you can already achieve. And many of them, of course, anything you achieve on a flat substrate, you can achieve the same on textiles because textile is basically just a different substrate, right? Any function you want, you pretty much can achieve with textiles. But some makes more sense than others. There are like many processes there are many processes incorporated in Maxine into textiles, but today I want to focus on this method because this is the coating and burning. This is the most relevant textile that easiest to implement. Next. And thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so here are, in this slide and next slide, I just want to quickly show you like the different functions you can achieve with Maxine. But of course, like these can be, I will show like either on fiber form or yarn form or textile fabric form, but any of the functions can be achieved in any other forms of textile too, because this is a truly universal material. So like right now, like if you're interested in prototyping in our lab, we already have an automatic deep coater that can deep coat Maxine on yarn to allow you to prototype like in carbon level or like to make socks, fit into 3D knitting machine, for example. And they can be like because of the structure, they can be used for strength sensing because we know different yarns they have different mechanical properties, and we apply Maxine because Maxine can infiltrate into the openings, like the spacing between the filaments. When you stretch it, it will give a change in electrical signal that can be used for electrical sensing, and this is just simply by deep coating. And I don't think I mentioned that Maxine have very good adhesion to cotton, like anything that a cellulose based or positive charge. Like think about cotton, the linen, like tencel. Think about nylon, Kevlar. We all have data showing that they can withstand to dozens, at least dozens of washing cycles. And here, like because Maxine has that very unique property, it can also be used for chemical sensing, for like mirror sensing, which is one of the work I did during my PhD. I simply coat Maxine onto a nylon filament that has 300 microns in diameter and put that into a mouse, and that is already enough. Just by a simple deep coating method to stimulate the muscle and record the signal change of the muscle. So here, of course, with the electroconductivity, you can also have dual heating, and because Maxine is very conductive, you can actually have a lower voltage and generate more heat with it. And this is, thank you. And this is why always you pretty much want a high electroconductivity with smart textiles. All the way, please. Thank you. Yeah, and I talked about the electronic applications, but I also want to talk about the application actually do not require electricity to flow. For example, here, Maxine actually is a great material for harvesting solar energy for heat. Like we all know that when we wear black fabric, right, it absorbs more heat than white. But what if you're in a very cold environment, you want to have something that absorbs even more heat than black fabric? You can coat Maxine. For example, here we can see that by simply coating Maxine onto a silk fabric, actually. Here you can see after when opposed to like noon sun, which is when the solar energy is the most, within just 2 minutes, you have 80 degrees on the fabric. So of course you can like lower the amount of Maxine to lower the temperature, but this is a way to allow heating with no power at all. Like you do not need a battery for it. And then for example, for camouflage or information encrypting, because Maxine depend on the composition, they have different IR emissivity. So that's why like, even to the eye, they look similar. Actually, you can create different colors with them. I'm not showing. But even like for these, like they look similar to the eye, like they will have very different signal in the IR range. And then like for example, because Maxine is very electroconductive, especially the most used, and you can use it for EMI shielding as well. And this is the last work which got a center into this line of research, which is under storage. Maxine can also be simply coated on fabric, like the fabric I'm wearing. You can drop Maxine onto it and then layer it up just to have enough voltage in order to power some like microcontrollers. We have data show like just by simply drop casting Maxine onto fabric, this is enough to power a temperature sensor for like over 2 hours. Yeah. Yeah, so this is all I want to show. This is basically the introduction of like why Maxine is a good material for smart textiles, and some examples of what it can do. There are like way more applications Maxine can do because it has like properties needed for lots of conditional functions of smart textiles. So if you're interested, I'd be happy to talk more about it. And if you want to learn more Maxine, you can either connect with me on LinkedIn, or if you're very interested, you can come to the Maxine conference, which will be at Drexel University in August. Thank you for your attention.
Do you have questions? Yeah, I have. How many washing cycle it's good to do for long?
For cotton, we have data showing that it can be washed up to 20 hours with no change at elevated temperature of 80 degrees C.
And it's lower the
That's within 5% of resistance change, which is performance change, basically, for example, for air. Yeah.
Have you, sorry, I kind of lost my voice. Have you made it into a filament or is it only a post-production coating? And if so, can you knit it? Can you weave it? Like, what's the application of the yarn so far?
So we have research showing that Maxine coated yarns can be knitted with 3D knitting into like different structures for energy storage. But of course, this process needs a lot of optimization because the yarn, depending on the structure and mechanical properties, will be easier or harder to knit, right?
Sure.
So it's like we definitely need more development there, but the proof of concept has shown that we can do that.
Okay, let's go. What are your current barriers to scale?
Maxine production itself, because actually we're being approached by a couple, like 4 or 5 textile nails to test out the technology, but we cannot yet produce like what they need for larger scale validation. We can produce like kilograms level, but the kilograms are not enough for the factories, you know, to operate. Yeah. But Drexel University is having a startup called Maxine Company that is trying to scale this up to large scale.
And like, what does it cost at the moment, like, until bigger scalability?
Right now, you can buy, if you're interested in purchasing Maxine, you can buy from our team at $50 per gram. And that's actually a lot because nowadays the carbon nano, I don't know whether some of you have heard of carbon nanotubes. And that's like used in many different fields like batteries and smart textiles as well. The carbon nanotubes are about $100 per gram. So we're already cheaper than carbon nanotubes actually. Yeah, because the process is top-down approach, sorry, yeah.
Oh, so it seemed like in that 2017 paper that cost about, well, was it like 1 lab day to do 1 kilogram, right? Is that?
Oh, yes, yes, I have a page showing that we can produce in a week, definitely in kilogram scale already in the lab. So if you order from us today, it will be a lot because like think about it, like you have the material, but you will disperse in a solution. So for me to have, for example, a cold volume of solution that's sufficient for screen printing, for example, you only need 1 gram because you will disperse that into a water, you know, like or something to process. And Maxine, just for example, a lot of applications like air shielding, for example, EMF shielding, you only need less than 100 nanometer of material to achieve the function. So you actually need very little material. Yeah.
So, how much like energy does it cost about to make like a kilogram?
I don't think it has been calculated. Yeah.
You said that the textiles were looking to test it out. Is there anything in particular, like a use case in particular that they're trying to test it out with?
That's what I'm trying to figure out with Accenture, because there's so many applications Maxine can do for smart textiles. I think right now, like we're thinking about doing functions that do not require connection, like for example, sensing. We're trying to develop, for example, EMI shielding, IR shielding, IR camouflage, like photothermal heating, stuff like that, and make sure that Maxine have a very good adhesion and enough data to support their durability. And then we'll make the connection, because connection is always additional complexity, you know, that goes onto the system. Yeah. So non-electronic applications first and electronic applications.
Yes.
So if you get the material, what kind of features, like what type of setup do you do the application?
Just the regular factory setup. Yeah. And unfortunately, we cannot do that in the lab because in the lab, we cannot afford to buy a whole industrial setup. But for inkjet printing, we have a collaboration with the HP. Just use their on the market inkjet printer. We can print Maxine with it. Yeah. And if you load Maxine to a pen, you can write with it too. So it's very easy. It's basically like a liquid that you can deal with whatever.
Can you go to slide 6? That pie chart. Are there any other uses found after 2016 or 2017? It's the latest year on that.
That's a very good question. This is definitely an old pie chart. That's, anything new not shown here? You mean?
Yeah.
Well, for example, here, I don't see like wound healing. I think I had a discussion about like how smart textile can be used for wound healing. Actually, electricity is something very useful for the wound to close, because when you have a big opening, you need something to bridge the gap, you know, like the opening. So like data has shown that by using conducting materials and sending a little bit of conductivity, like electricity there, you can help the wound to close faster. So there have been now research, latest research on there. What else?
Are any of these uses commercialized already?
Commercialized, no. They're like, right now, like Maxine research, like for textiles application, every year there are 200 papers published. Both last year and the year before, every year have like 200 papers published, but there is one company in Korea, I think, trying to commercialize Maxine on textiles, but in the US there's no, yeah, but you cannot basically buy Maxine textiles now on the market.
Because you have to buy through your lab.
Yes, if you're interested, you can buy it.
Do you guys have a patent?
We have we have different patents on this textiles around, yeah. For like one for energy storage and one for the whole treatment, yeah.
Okay. Okay, I have a very simple question. How you can use Maxine just in clothes, in brands, like how you can just combine this technology with regular clothes? Can you?
Oh, yeah, I can drop Maxine on my shirt today if I want like higher camouflage. So if I drop Maxine on my shirt, like when you see, I should have shown that. When you see it bring eye camera, this area will appear black, when the other area will appear red, because we constantly emit IR in our body. Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Just need to make a reason for it.
Okay.
But you could spray it, right?
Yeah, you can spray it, you can deep coat it, you can print it, you can print different ones, that's like different Maxines, because they have like.
And how much from the 1 gram, how much you need for like, for example, one shirt, just like some kind of number to understand? It wouldn't change the color of the clothes, right? It would stay
It will change the color
for black.
to different colors, like I'm showing like there are different colors with the material, but we haven't tried it. I think you can mix dyes with Maxine.
So it would be more logical to use Maxime on the when you will coat it with the color, the text.
Exactly, you can, I think potentially for camouflage, you can mix Maxine with your regular colors and print that way.
Can you
Yeah.
blend it with manufacturer?
Oh,
Can you blend it?
you can blend different ones, and they will have the intermediate colors. So yeah. Yeah,
So it will be inside?
it will be inside the textile.
Mhm.
Actually, it will be mostly, it can be inside the fabric
Yeah.
and it can be inside the yarn, but it will not be like dyes to be inside the fiber. Because for dyes to go inside the fiber, the dyes are so small, they're like less than 1 nanometer. And
Yeah.
Maxines are micron scale. So they're mostly functioning actually like printing, like it adhere to the surface, but not like chemically bonding, you know, to the inside of the fiber. Yeah.
What are the health consequences of like having Maxine on the phone at the department to our speech?
So we have collaborators who are working on wearable electronics for EMG, like the electromyography, like basically like detecting the muscle strength. And they've had like participants wear their device directly in contact with Maxine for a week, and there was no irritation. But skiing is relatively easy because skiing many times are served as a barrier, you know, to the elements, you know, in your environment. But in the body, there has been not much research of like in living animals, stuff like that. Most of the research are in cell level. So they will have a cell culture and put Maxine there to see whether Maxine affects the viability of the cells. But all the research came back in like biocompatible. Yeah, because titanium is a very safe element for the body, right? That's why we have like joint replacement and titanium metal, like always.
Okay, Okay, do we have more questions?
One last question, like, I mean, you spoke of titanium, but like, do you expect like other applications such as for like surgeries, like with some people like get batteries for their heart and so on, so like just situations?
Well,
Or is it more like medical uses out?
medical uses, there are studies of implantables, but to be honest, like the studies actually in the research field in India are so far from application, right? Because academia is all about pro concept. You insert this, for example, my study, like we would insert the vaccine coated fiber into the mouth, the rat. And then like maybe if the rat is still alive and then give the responses we want after a day, and that's good enough to show that it is working. But in order to have it function like in a rat, for example, for over months, we need an integrated system because we basically need a microelectronic to be small enough for the mouse to wear without affecting its movement. And that requires collaborator in the relative field that doesn't, it's kind of hard to get. Yeah, but yeah.
Oh, what are the like sustainable kind of impacts, or it's obviously synthetic, no?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, it's not a protein or, cellulose, so
Mm.
like, but what's that relationship?
Yeah, I think for sustainability, the manufacturing is relatively sustainable because it's similar to many other materials. If you think about current day electronics, the manufacturing is definitely way more energy efficient because this is not like CVD based process. This is a wet chemistry based process. I think also compared with, for example, metal or carbon based inks, vaccines use water. Vaccine doesn't use like toxic organic solvents or like other material stabilizers or thickeners, centers to make it function. So it already has very simple elements in it. So I think as an ink is quite sustainable from other materials you would need for electrical conductivity, which is what we're talking about, because for smart textiles, without electrical conductivity, you cannot make it into electronics, right? Yeah. So I think there are the advantages, and there's some groups studying the recyclability of vaccine and how fast vaccine degrades in the environment. But I don't know much about this research. Yeah.
Oh, has there been long-term research on allergies? Because like this comes from like my uncle, he got a titanium rod implanted in his body, and it was only years later they found out he's allergic to titanium. So like, has there been this like long-term research on like the impact of vaccines on the body?
No, because first of all, it's like cell level and then animal level, and eventually one day like human level, and we're still at the cell level, which is step one. We don't even have data like from like there's like the data of vaccine to fish embryos. And that's the closest we have now in terms of the biocompatibility in a living system. Yeah, so
Got it.
it's very far from there.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It was very interesting and insightful. So thank you so much. And we have another speaker. He will be online, and he will share his relevant experience and tell us something interesting. Hi, Milon, are you here?
Hello. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm here. So let me share my screen and maybe.
Okay, cool. I'm so grateful to hear you.
Thank you, my pleasure. So am I sharing the right slide? Hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so welcome everyone. This is Milon Hossain. So I am currently working at Intel Corporation as a thin film dielectric engineer. So before that, I graduated from NC State University in textile engineering with a focus on carbon nanotube based smart textile, followed by a postdoc at Cornell University. But I'm going to share most of my work using carbon nanotube. And beside that, I also worked on different other smart textile. Like I have an independent lab that is kind of non-profit. I guide some student and trying to develop some printed smart textile. But this talk is mostly limited to carbon nanotube. So before I start, a brief overview about smart textile. So the goal of smart textile is like how we can add more functionality to textiles that can be combined with our day-to-day life. How we can make textile more friendly and informative, like obtaining different data using different sensor. So there are different strategies how we can combine different functionality. And if we go back a bit, then you can see how we used to do that. So with the emergence of like miniaturized electronics, there's, in the past, most popular option was like how we can adopt a small circuit in the textile so that we can make it functional. It can provide give some data, produce some functionality, and we used to adopt like sewing, embroidery, or manually attach those circuitry with the textile. But textile is always in contact with your skin, so it's challenging to carry some electronic component with your skin. So then it came like textile integrated process, like directly sewing some of them, just add up some smaller circuit and just hide it in textile or develop some more thinner electronics and print it on the textile. But still there are some challenges because these mostly metal-based electronics are not washable. So think about a smart textile that definitely smart textile is more expensive than a traditional textile. So for example, a t-shirt providing a more function, giving you some data, for example, giving a heart rate or muscle movement, but you cannot wash it. So how much money you need to afford that textile? So will you buy a textile that you cannot wash, just wear one time and just drop it, discard it? That's a big challenge and bottlenecks for developing this smart textile. So the future is like how we can develop a all textile based smart textile that is durable and sustainable and you can wash it. So to achieve this goal, different materials emerged over the time, either carbon based or metal based or organic polymer. So there are different studies, different research, and a significant progress was made, mostly limited to their functionality. Like we can get excellent functionality for a certain time, but how about the long term? Can we use it for multiple time? How are those functionality sustainable? Like, do they retain their functionality after certain wash or certain mechanical deformation? So that's the question now the different researchers are trying to solve. And my research focused on aspect of solving this problem, especially their mechanical and wash durability. However, before going that, like how the future look like for smart textile. So can we call it textile science fiction? We used to think about adopting different kind of LED or different kind of fancy stuff to say it is smart textile, but it went beyond our imagination in the last few years. So a few examples is that acoustic fiber microphone that was developed in MIT in 2022. So it's basically convert mechanical vibration. Actually, the vibration comes from sound and into electrical signal. So that helps in aiding communication, especially with the people with hearing problem. In another step, there is assistive technology that was developed based on the same principle, where the textile can convert Braille alphabet into an audible sound, and using the machine learning and algorithm that can translate this Braille alphabet with 99% efficiency. So it's a huge achievement for people with the disability. And if we go with the other fancy stuff like the textile display, so there are different LED fiber. It's completely fiber, not electric component that can be woven or knitted into textiles, and it can produce different sign, showing you direction, showing you map, and producing some specific sign that can be used for different purposes. So this sounds very exciting considering the future and prospect of smart textiles. So in my work, I use carbon nanotube mostly. So let me talk a bit about carbon nanotube. So they are tubular structure rolled up from planar graphene sheet. So mostly graphene, but when they are rolled up, we call it a carbon nanotube because it looks like a tube. So you can see in the animation, when it's plain, then it's graphene, but when it is rolled up, then it's carbon nanotube because it's tubular form. And we can do that in multiple sheets. So when there are multiple sheets rolled concentrically, then we call it multi-wall carbon nanotube. And for single sheet, it's single wall carbon nanotube. So I use multi-wall carbon nanotube, like 15 to 17 of this sheet rolled up together. And they have some excellent characteristics, like they are strong, conductive, and they are piezoresistive and processable. So that make them suitable for e-textile application. However, one of the unique characteristics of the carbon nanotube I used, it has a staple length that is 1 millimeter. So there are different versions of carbon nanotube, especially they're in physical structure. One is powder. So powder form is not spinnable, like you can use it for mostly coating and printing. But if you want to spin a carbon nanotube, like make a fiber directly out of carbon nanotube without going solution spinning process, then you have to produce a spinnable carbon nanotube with a staple length around 1 millimeter. So we use this kind of carbon nanotube and synthesized in our lab. So it was synthesized using chemical vapor deposition. You can see the furnace. So basically, it's like a gas, methane gas or acetylene gas that's decomposed at 760 degrees Celsius. And this individual atom are dropped on a substrate. And the carbon nanotube, like it drops one layer after another layer, and it becomes like around 1 millimeter tall. And we can go beyond that limit, but after that, it becomes like it entangled and it's difficult to process and align them together. So typically 1 millimeter is optimized length that can be used for producing a fiber. So you can see here, this is how the growth process goes on. And after that, we get a spinnable multi-wall carbon nanotube. We call it array. And if you drag a razor blade on edges and pull it with a tweezer, then it comes out like this. Then you twist it and it becomes a very fine diameter fiber. So the diameter of this fiber, like if you don't use anything else of this single array, is around 30 to 40 micron. So that's extremely thin to process further using knit carbon nanotube. And at the same time, these carbon nanotube are pretty fragile. So we used thermoplastic polyurethane solution that was dissolved in acetone to stabilize that so that we can handle it. Otherwise, if you directly touch this carbon nanotube, it breaks. But when you used 1% of thermoplastic polyurethane solution, you can touch it and you can process it very easily. So here is the spinning setup that I used. So I'm not going through all the details. You can focus here, like this is the main part. So in my spinning system, there was a Korean insertion mechanism, and you see one array here and another array here. I mean, it's coming from the top side and the opposite side of this spinning devices. It's a very small lab scale spinning devices. And this array comes through this upper side and the opposite side, and we twisted it together. So what's the benefit of using a Korean? Carbon nanotube, like it's not like a traditional fiber, so you can mass produce it. I calculated like you need 8 hours to produce 90 meter of yarn. So multiplying, there is one option like how we can increase the diameter. You can multiply the carbon nanotube, but it will take a lot of carbon nanotube. So this will be more expensive. So to utilize the benefit of, to scale up the diameter, I used a core insertion mechanism, and this hole is around 1 millimeter. So you can use any kind of core yarn, traditional yarn like cotton, polyester, or high performance yarn, and then twist them together. So the carbon nanotube is nicely wrapped over this core yarn. So it gives you two things. One is like it increases the diameter for textile processing, because typically a cotton fiber has a diameter around 200 micron. So you cannot process a carbon nanotube with 30 to 40 micron, because either you are trying to knit it or weave it, it's very difficult. So I use different kind of, especially cotton and polyester core yarn, to increase this diameter, to increase their strength, because using different kind of core yarn, it increases their strength. And then use that to produce different kind of knit structure. So before going that to different textile processing step, I just want to show how other people or other researchers developed in this field. So in the CNT yarn, most of them are either combined with the ring spinning process, but the conductivity was very low and the performance was very low, because this process is not uniform. Like there are different, there might be different defects. And another approach like coating a thick yarn using carbon nanotube powder, and the same problem, like you get a very thick yarn that is not uniform, has a different problem with the aesthetic. But when it goes with the fabric, the fabric, they are either net structure or open structure. This kind of, they term it as open structure, this one, or here is the netted structure. But you see there is, it's very net step structure. So barely you can call it a fabric structure in relating to textiles. So I tried to use this yarn for real industrial textile machinery to process it, make a smart textile. So I did some characterization on the yarn. You see, this is the ACM image on the top. It's a net carbon nanotube yarn. So it's highly flexible that a knot can be produced without breaking it. And the diameter, when I use different core yarn, it can be scaled up to a regular cotton and polyester yarn. And you can see subsurface images. So this images shows no TPU, like no binder on the surface. So there are some fuzzy surface, there are some protruding fiber, but with the TPU, it becomes smoother and nicer. And this is the cross section. You can see there are a lot of fuzz when cut cross sectionally, but with the TPU, it becomes very stable. So, but still, it's just 1% TPU, so it maintains very high flexibility. And I use this this yarn to test their different electromechanical properties. I'm showing a very brief summary here. So you can see the specific conductivity, it increases with the TPU percentage. I mean, with higher TPU percentage, it shows a bit higher resistance, but at the same time, if you change the different core yarn, like knit CNT has lowest resistance, but if you use CNT cotton, like cotton as a core yarn or polyester as a core yarn, then they show some changes in the resistance. But in all the yarn has kind of acceptable level of resistance. I mean, the electrical conductivity. But if you compare with other materials, it's not like the best in the class, but still it has enough conductivity that could be used for smart textile fabrication. So I used two knit CNT yarn to connect a 12-volt LED, and it can be successfully used as a interconnect or wire to power up this LED. And as I mentioned, this yarn are highly flexible. So if you use hand sewing and integrated textile, it like you see this serpentine shape, it does not break. It retains its continuity and can transfer the power. And with the strength, it depends on the core yarn. So this weight, 2.2 pounds, was with net CNT yarn, and this is with cotton as a core, this is polyester as a core. So all of this yarn with or without core has sufficient mechanical strength that can withstand different friction caused by the textile processing. So I used whole garment knitting machine, considering their highly automated options. Like you can just program a design and it can knit automatically, and it can produce seamless garments. So I programmed a simple structure and produced different variation. But at this later, I tried to produce various structure knitting, and you see here, this is single jersey, like just a circular jersey structure. Yeah, but this was produced in a small lab scale jersey machine. But this is the whole garment knitted structure. The black region is carbon nanotube, and other region is like typical regular yarn. And here are the inlay structure, and here is like another plating structure that I tried and was able to knit them without any issue. But I had to customize the setup, especially the yarn feeding tension that need to be reduced to avoid the frictions. So similar way, I used a hand gloves and integrated a knitted yarn here to produce a body movement tracking gloves. And you can see that when the gloves was used and the finger was bent at different angle and different amplitude, then we can get different signals. And based on these signals, we can translate them into a amount of force is being applied to track the movement. So you can see here, this is the maximum bending and this is the lowest bending. So the difference between this amplitude is used to determine whether the finger is in rest or relaxed condition, or whether it is in bending or bending state. So these are mostly used for sports rehabilitation, like if an athlete is injured and doing some regular exercise, so how their movement is increasing over the time, and so that can be tracked with the this kind of textiles. Another application was wearable thermotherapy. So this is the whole garment knitted wristband I produce, and you can see here when a very small voltage is applied, like 1 to 5 volt, so then it can produce very high amount of heat that can be used for thermotherapy, especially like a patient with arthritis. But typically the required heat for arthritis is around 45 degrees Celsius that could be produced within with 2 volt supply. We don't need to go like 5 volt that can produce around 160 degrees Celsius. And the stability is pretty good. Like if we strain it at different percentages from 0 to 45 degrees percentage, then that thermal stability is nice, like without any significant drop. And this 45% strain is mostly cover the body movement of different parts, and it could be used to like seamlessly with different body parts. Another part of this research was like I use this yarn to make a woven structure, braided structure, and other knitted structure to use them for electrocardiography, EKG. And you see like here is 3 different structure, and I compared them for the performance in heart rate monitoring. So their diameter was similar, like depending on the core yarn I'm using, it can increase and it can go higher. And the resistance was different compared to different structure. Like these are the different variation with their surface area, especially like the CF3, that is the oven one. So their size, this number, this 3 number is their different sizes. So it goes from smaller to larger size. Same for the braided yarn, from smaller to largest. And the impedance shows that with the different size, they shows different skin to electrode impedance, and it's slightly higher than the gold standard that is produced by 3M electrode used in hospital setting. So this is for the 3M electrode, and this is for the different textile electrode used. So when used for heart rate monitoring or different variation of this electrode, they can produce similar results like the gold standard 3M electrode. But most important aspect, the signal to noise ratio comparison, because we want a very small noise with the textile electrode. And since textile electrode are dry electrode, they are susceptible to like different kind of motion artifact, and a lot of noise is produced. But in case when I use the braided structure and tightly used as a wristband, then it produces the similar signal to noise ratio with the 3M electrode here. And in case, this is for oven, and for the braided one, you can see the signal to noise ratio is higher in some cases, showing the better performance. And same for the RCC signal recording, like when I use all 3 carbon electrode, they have similar ECG data compared to like a 3M electrode. And for the single electrode, it's slightly lower. The amplitude is not that great compared to 3M electrode, but if we use all 3 carbon electrode, it can produce similar results. So so those are some example, but at the same time, I evaluated the durability, especially the wash durability. I directly washed the yarn and produced an end structure with the yarn, like a sewing with the sewing machine, and washed them for 30 cycles following a TCC TM61A. And it showed some remarkable result, like it was almost resistant to 30 washing cycle. And in some cases, it showed increase in conductivity after washing. But I compare with a commercial one that is silver coated nylon yarn that lost its conductivity after 5 washing cycle. This is accelerated washing cycle. And other commercial yarn that retained really good wash durability. However, that is comparable with the carbon nanotube. But why there is increase the conductivity? Because carbon nanotube is inert to water, but after it's washed in water, they are densified because of capillary forces. So their intertube connection becomes better, and they shows increase in electrical conductivity rather than decrease. I also watched the braided structure and found similar performance. Like they shows, they retained their performance in recording electrocardiograph after 5 wash cycle, but after the 5 wash cycle, it showed some deterioration in their magnitude. So mostly, if we want like a long-term wash durability, we need to customize and need to study more how we can design a more suitable electrode that can be resistant to more washing cycle. Yeah, that's it. So it's mostly like exploring different kind of knitted structure, and showed how they can be used for multifunctional application from thermotherapy, body movement tracking, and ECG recording with acceptable level of wash durability. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Very nice presentation. I have 2 questions. The first one is why the braided CNTR has a higher signal to noise ratio than the other structures?
Okay, so you mean the difference in noise signal to noise ratio?
Mm-hmm.
So it mostly like this has like a different surface area, like they have different sizes. So this fabric are directly attached without attached with the skin. Like for the woven fabric, a small strip was cut and it was attached with a wristband. So I did not use, I did not optimize the pressure. That is an important factor for signal to noise ratio. So maybe the pressure difference was not, the pressure difference caused these changes in the signal to noise ratio. Same for the braided electrode, like I just used as a sports band on my wrist. So I did not optimize the pressure here as well. So this need further study, like whether it's because of the surface area or because of the pressure. That was not optimized during this study. So we found some variation in the signal to noise ratio.
Thank you very much. That's great insight. My follow-up question is, what is how much magazine do you have per centimeter? Like what is, sorry, not magazine, this is what I work on. How much is your CNT loading? For example, how many milligrams of CNT do you have per centimeter?
Okay, so let me go back to show the structure. So here, if I use, the CNT amount of CNT was same. It's around 30% in weight with the cotton. For the core yarn, like the cotton was used as core yarn here, and CNT was wrapped around this cotton yarn. Okay, but for the pristine or knit CNT, there was no core yarn, so it was 100% carbon nanotube. Like this on this ACM structure. So this is a 100% carbon nanotube yarn. And when I'm talking about the percentage in case of all 3 carbon electrode, that means it is net carbon nanotube without any core. So that is 100% carbon nanotube yarn. It's a standalone carbon nanotube yarn without anything.
Thank you.
No problem.
Oh, thank you so much, and thank you for sharing your experience in staying tuned with me. And
All right, my pleasure. Thank you.
okay, I will share what I'm doing here, and I will be very fast and then ask you some questions. So what I'm can you please share a little? Yes. So I'm doing the military gear. It's like combined nanotechnology and textile. So we are just going up. So what we do, like we are as a company, as a combined nanotechnology and molecular gear. So this is wearable drug delivery systems for where if you have some issues with your skin, and what we do, like wound healing protection, regrowth of the skin, and against harmless bacteria. So this is the real product, what we do like right now and produce, and this is what we try to develop with scientists and all stuff with IP and all stuff like to do how it like in real world. Just so this is what we try to do right now. We have the technology for our socks with odor control and silver. This is different technology, and we try to do something healing the body. So this is nano capsules, and you can put inside whatever medicine you want, and this is how it works. It's called WAR. And where we can use it like at socks, at underwear, and at uniform. And right now we produce only socks with water control and silver. That's all. Thank you. Okay. And I will ask you some questions because I know like QA is always for speakers, but right now I want to have QA for our audience. So, okay. You are from different sides, so I wanted to ask like people from IT, like how do you see these innovations impacting the fashion and say, okay, not fashion, like with clothes industry, like apparel industry, like how you can use it in what you think about it, because you just okay, please.
I mean, from a design perspective, it's really easy to come up with very unique designs using AI, LLMs to come up with new looks. But whether that's IP providable, that's a good question.
Okay. I want to answer it.
Well, you could like, with the sun series, you could integrate that. Or based on the original one. It seems like it'd be cool, like if you're a soldier, right? Like try to identify, let's say, like the quality of the air, like if there's anything like dangerous in that area, like that, based on your clothes.
Okay, this was the next one.
I could say as a person who has that's okay. I could say as a person who has a lot of clients for military, most of people buying socks and t-shirts want to have silver for bacterial protection. So this is like must have in war country, right?
Okay, and next one. So what are some of the most promising new sustainable materials being developed for fashion textiles? We can just fashion because I don't know what like you have experience, and people just when say like textiles and smart textiles, they just more fashion side. So and you are not. So okay. How do they compare to the traditional materials in terms of performance and environmental impact? Like who wanted to answer for this one question?
Well, I would do a question. Like things like polyester, and like things like detergents, they have a very big like carbon footprint. So like what would like your innovations or your company do to help make
What do you some?
For the first question, I think I've seen some bio-based materials these days.
Like what?
Like I heard a startup, they are making textile fibers from material.
Yeah,
And fungi, and stuff like that, that they call it sustainable textile. And for the second question, they really compel something like biodegradability. And this is related to environment.
Okay.
I think like regenerative synthetics, just like taking old synthetics and re-extruding them is a really important space.
Okay, like in a circle, like use.
Yeah, like taking old clothes, melting them down, re-extruding them into like kind of a continuous polyester thing.
Okay.
Because it's already here and we're addicted to it. It's like, how can we do less and better?
Yeah, I think we need something change because when you use like some clothes from like before using yarns, it's not so.
There's people doing it, but
Okay.
yeah. Are you doing it? Or you're
No,
using first gen, huh? No?
What?
You're using first generation synthetics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first. I have reason for this.
Okay.
So how are technology like 3D printing, nanotechnology, and biotechnology being applied to create innovative next textiles? And what are the potential benefits and challenges? And what organizational changes are needed? So I wanted to ask some guys like you. Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
Okay, so this is our questions, and I ask audience just to testing what you think about why you're here and what your thoughts about this one.
Why I'm here and what I thought about this one.
Yeah.
I like designer. Erin, I will tell the name later, but she's remarkable. She's been in the red carpets all the world, and her specialization is Georgia printing on material. She does some stunning design, and I wish one day I will have enough money to buy the dress from her. So she combined 3D printing with clothing, and for fashion specifically. And I don't know about military because I'm from military side. It's amazing. So the 3D printing really literally changed the fashion industry because many designers use it.
Okay, yep.
Well, just to continue, because I'm more familiar with bio-based textiles, I think one of the hardest challenge would be how to scale up. So think about the machines that you're going to use if you're applying a very innovative methods or some type of technology, then you have a really significant large fixed cost for producing. And I think that just like stopped a lot of great innovations to be applied to the real market. And also business margin as well, and how you're convincing the manufacturers to adopt in your methods, because they are very risk averse and
yes, that's why we have like customers from sport industry, not only for military and hospitals, because it's just for my heart, for like it's only for my vision for this world. But we have customers for sport and for another. Okay, to have some money like this circle, and I totally understand like when my co-founder, he is from business side, and he answered for all these questions, how you will make money of this, like, okay.
Yeah, I'm from the business side as well, so that's why I'm like, I've been thinking about these questions. So it's definitely one of the hardest, like, how do you kind of combine your innovation technology with the existing? Like, what's your product market fit?
Yeah.
And I think like maybe using what you started, but together with scalability, like I'm a lawyer, regular work with startups, and I think because this sector seems to still be in its infancy, like it requires a lot of collaboration, but at the same time, because IP is so valuable, it also requires a lot of protection. So I'm curious, like how it's going to be fully like balanced, because it's easy to like talk about ideals, but a lot of companies want to see at least an angle of potential commercialization and scalability and so on. So and I'm curious, like just, what has your experience been for that, like benefiting the society, but also like with commercializing it so that a couple companies can make a lot of money. And then the second part is like, I think all three speakers have been talking about integrating a lot of sensors and so on, like on materials, which sounds great, but to me, it reminds me of like just earlier days of cell phones and then just like other technology. And as a lawyer, it just gives me nightmares because it's going to create a lot of privacy concerns, for example, like, who's going to collect that data, how are they going to use it, like, and who's going to, have control over that data, like, and then when the regulators are going to catch up with it, like it took more than 10 years for regulators to start catching up about like, privacy issues on the internet, and that has or reflect a lot less information than biometrics or like other data that is related to your like blood or like other very valuable and important information. So I don't have an answer, but like I think these are important things so that like companies will not innovate just for the sake of innovating, but also thinking about the consequences.
Okay, so I have this question as well as like you. I don't want to give my data for everyone. Yep, and I don't want to someone collect my data and like analyze, but we live in this world right now. So it's happening right now. Even you don't think about, but many companies collect your data. And this is very specific area for like NASA or for hospitals or for military. So I think it's kind of more regulated and it's not for regular people. So for me, it's like your customers already regulated all this data and how it's like give privacy and all this stuff. But like, I think even more by government. So for regular people like you or me, it's not interesting. It's just very specific area. And if you live right now in a world where collecting data like every second of you, so or you use it or not, or you use or you collaborated with AI or all the stuff or not, like or they just will be doing their job without you. So if you or you just choose to how to use this all stuff and or not.
No, I understand it's going to happen regardless, like, I choose to hide from it or not. So and I think there's more benefit in like people with some conscious, like to get involved in that process so that like at least it's, in a better direction. So.
But I think we will have some more regulation in a few years by government. So all like, especially for military, especially for hospitals. So.
There's also like the amount of stuff happening on the software side. I think that's probably like where the distinction is that this is more materials based, but like you talked about issues for privacy, that might be more the software programming that's on top of those materials. And there are like certain applications that are becoming fuzzy right now, text based, like zero knowledge proofs, which is like this concept if you could have a secret and somebody can prove that you have, like this secret, but they can actually see the secret. So let's say I have some information that's tracking my heartbeat. And so I could go to a third party, this is like my doctor, right? And my doctor doesn't necessarily need to see my full heart rate history over the last 3 months, but they can get a proof very quickly of saying, hey, am I in a good range or am I in a bad range? And if it's in the bad range, they just automatically get sent, oh, it's in the bad range. Let's start talking to your client about some options to that. And so that's like one application way you think about zero knowledge proofs. And so it could happen in the same world if we are tracking more biometric data or any type of data on our through our apparel. You could have certain software that would allow for us to collect that data, even have direct ownership of it, have direct ownership of it, either having it self-hosted, so we can like have our own hard drive, or we can give it to some other cloud provider, and then we use something like a zero knowledge proof, and it can move in the cloud, but it's behind some very smart math that I don't understand that would prove that we have the data, but nobody can see the data except for me. That's one way to think about it.
Okay, thank you so much. Oh, do you have a question? You wanna go answer?
I have some thoughts.
Yeah,
Sure.
please, sure.
If you can more seamlessly and quietly track people's, like, more types of data, then you unlock the ability to sort of get new insights. And if you can do that without requiring someone to wear like something like a Whoop or something and like integrate it into our clothing everyday lives, then you open up the possibility of collecting more data and new types of data in new places. And then from there, I don't know, I'm thinking of digital biomarkers, which is like little pieces of data that you can use to measure whether or not a certain activity is has a direct impact on your health. And so maybe having these sensors integrated into every piece of clothing and multiple, in fact, everything you wear all day, could allow us to just, I guess, be healthier and be more just healthier people in various different ways that we can't figure out right now, because there's so many different types of sensors that we can integrate in new places. And I just think that we'll get some digital biomarkers that we didn't have before, which is interesting, make it ubiquitous.
Cool. Cool. And so last one. And this is for more for you, like about sustainable materials and the cycle. So, okay, what role can textile recycling and circular fashion play in dryer material innovation? Are there promising technologies emerging in this space? I think you're more knowledgeable than me, so can you just share your thoughts about recycling?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot going on. I think some of it's real and some of it's fake, or like marketing, just because it's like trending. So it's hard to kind of navigate, I feel like, for the consumer. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a full system design process, like from beginning of a material to like end of life of a product or garment.
From scratch, like from
everything matters. It's like development in every every facet, I think is really interesting. Think a lot of how assembly of how you make products is important, like less cut and sew, more engineering and like shape making, especially in like 3D knitting is really interesting. So I think there's like developments happening in the space. And then also post-production, like end of life of garments, like what does that look like? Either like bio-based or what do you do with synthetics? And so that's where it comes into regenerative synthetics or like recycled synthetics. Because like they're already here on the earth in the landfills, like we have to make action and change. So yeah, but there's a loads there. I mean, I think it's really exciting. I mean, I work in this, so yeah.
Oh, and what do you do?
Me?
Yeah.
I do 3D knitting.
Whoa.
Yeah, I have a lab at NYTW doing textiles.
Yes, in 3D knitting, we have different type of equipment, like for socks and for flats. So yeah, and we have different software for all the stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why we have like mushroom startups who create like biotextile from mushrooms. I know this as well. Okay, thank you so much and enjoy this evening. I wanted to have some to go to some